Hello, this is going to be lesson 2 of chapter 1 of Who's Afraid of Braille Music. So last lesson that we were looking at covered just learning the pitches of do, re, mi, fa, and sol on the piano. Now I did introduce some pre stuff that you would have to introduce or that you could introduce before you introduce these pitches. But that was basically covering that information. This lesson is going to talk about more of the same, and it's going to incorporate a little bit of letters and numbers. So with that, let's jump into the reading here. These notes also have alphabetic letters, meaning do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and ti. But primarily do to sol. And since do is middle C, re becomes D. Mi is E. Fa is F. Sol is G. These are the first 5 notes of the famous C major scale in music. Since middle C is the first note of the C scale, we also refer to this group of notes in order of as numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The numbers are called scale degrees, and these are very, very heavily used when you get into higher levels of I was gonna say higher levels of arithmetic, higher levels of music. And the alphabetic letters like the C, D, E, F, and G, those are actually derivative of what are called clefs that sighted people use to read off their music. There's special symbols placed in the front of each line of music that tells the musician which line is being identified. If it's called sol, the person is reading off the treble or sol clef. And if it's fa, they're reading off a fa or bass clef. There's also another clef which is called the do clef, which is also called the middle C or alto clef. And these clefs can move on 5 lines. They don't move on like every single line, but some of them can. The alto clef, Bach used the alto clef a lot with his choirs and keyboard music. And so unfortunately, that clef is not taught as it used to be. And it's very sad because now everything is just funky in the sighted music world. I miss the alto clef because it's pretty. Okay, so continuing. So that's just so we've got the solfege, we've got do, re, mi, fa, sol, and then we have the letters that line up with the solfege, C, D, E, F, and G. And then we also have the scale degrees, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so moving on to the next paragraph. It says, it is well to learn all 3 ways of naming musical notes, as different people may use one or the other name for them. No matter what, the notes from middle C up the scale to G or sol are scale steps 1 through 5. So following, they have a table, kind of, and it has the solfege, the alphabetic letters, and the numbers, which hopefully are self-explanatory. Do, Si, and 1 are all the same pitch. If I were to play Do, let me go back to my piano here. This is Do, Si, or 1. Re, D, and 2 are here. Mi, Mi, E, and 3 are here. Fa, F, and 4 are here. Sol, G, and 5 are here. So all of those notes, they all represent the same thing, whether if you're using the solfege, numbers, or alphabetic letters. All right. If I can get my text back here. So I hope that is explanatory, or easy to understand. If not, I'm sorry. I didn't come up with it. But this is why I would recommend holding off on teaching alphabetic letters until later. But Richard Taish has a degree or something like that, so he probably knows what he's doing. But eventually it would be good to learn all three, the solfege letters and the numbers. Okay, so then they got some workshop assignment. So ask someone to call out different notes in random order while you find them on the piano. Mix them up, calling out do, re, mi in syllables or solfege, then by letters and in numbers. See how fast you can play a note that is called out, that's called out to you. This is very wordy. Okay, so this is basically a little exercise. If somebody said, for example, if someone said do, they could play do. If someone said 3, could the student play 3? If someone said G, F, 4, mi, 2, 5, sol. Stuff like that. E. Let's see. Do. Si. Stuff like that. And they could do this like across, like they don't just have to stick within this 5 octave. They could play up here or in the lower octaves. But yeah, stuff like that is kind of fun. I would say, I didn't mention this in the other video, but I should have. If the student has sight, have them wear a blindfold. Obviously, this requires trust between the student and the teacher, parent, whatnot. But if there is a good, healthy trust in that, have the student wear a blindfold and then see if they can find those pitches. And that would actually be useful for the preceding lesson where they're learning the names. That way they're focused solely on the touch of the keys and what it sounds like and how their voice is lining up with that. But that is something I would recommend for students who have residual vision to use a blindfold and help. That will really help with their sense of tactileness of piano geography and stuff like that. Okay, so number 2 says, now just for fun, reverse the roles while you drill your teacher or your tutor. Fair is fair. You both need to know the rules. So, this is kind of neat because a lot of times students are not given opportunities to teach. And when a student teaches information, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything real fancy, but when a student can teach what they are learning, they will then be able to recall the information faster and solidify it faster. If the student is never given an opportunity to recall information that is stored in their brain, they are going to have a hard time with recall because those neural pathways are not built up yet to a fast, repetitious speed. If I said 2 plus 2, everyone most likely would instantly say 4. And that's because those pathways have been built up for so many years. You just know it. If someone said 2 plus 2, 5, you'd know something's wrong. Either they're still learning or they learned it wrong. But in general, basic arithmetic, basic spelling, things like that, is going to be really quick in that neural pathways. So having the student teach will foster this even in these really early stages before they're even touching music. A lot of music is knowledge base. And when you are coming at it from a blind and visually impaired perspective, there are certain things you have to know before you can actually read certain types of music. Like, you have to know what a third from do is before you can read that in music notation, because not all the notes of the scale are spelt out. Some of them are written with interval symbols, and you have to know that a third from do is going to be either la going down or mi going up. So being able to reverse roles, helping to have that quick recall for the student. It's not that the teacher doesn't know. My gosh, no. It's for the student's benefit. If the student doesn't have an opportunity to teach, they will not have that recall that is needed when it's dependent upon, when they really, really need it. Okay, so looking at number 3. Number 3 says, try this game. One of you calls out a note in syllables while the other identifies either in number or scale degree. And then they give some examples. If someone says me, a student says 3. Someone says sol, student says 5. Someone says F, the student says 4. So they're using they switched it around. They used the alphabetic letter, and the student had to identify. Another option would be, oh, here, they actually do it. D. A student would say re. If someone said 1, the student would say do. So that is really good with quick recall recognition as well. Being able to jump back and forth between those and really, really solidifying that information. And this little chart up here is pretty much all you need. So, I mean, you could drill that over and over and over again and see how quickly the student can do it. Another option, this might be fun, it just popped into my mind, is set a metronome and see how quickly, if, for instance, if you could go back and forth. Obviously, by this point, the student would have to have some fluency. But if the student says, or the teacher says do, the student could say si or one, but it would be in tempo. Like if I were to do solfege and numbers, it would be something like this. Do, 1, mi, 3, sol, 5, 3, mi. Stuff like that. That's an example of how that would work with the metronomes. Teacher would say on one beat, the student would say with the either the number or whatever it is requested on the second beat. And the goal in that would try not to get knocked off. You don't want to fall behind on the beat. Obviously, starting out a little bit slower, then increasing tempo. That could be really fun. That could help with that recall recognition as well. I just knocked a cat, mouse, or bird, whatever it is. Okay, continuing. Think from middle C or do as the starting point and continue to work out little drills for practice. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but if anyone else understands it, knock your socks off. Okay, number 4. Now comes the hard part. Have the teacher play different notes up to sol on the piano, on the keyboard. When a note is played, the student must identify it. Teacher says, or teacher plays middle C, student says do. Teacher plays G, student says sol, and so on. That should be self-explanatory, but if it's not, I can definitely do a little demo here. So if I play, let's see, I would not just randomly pick a note, but I would give do for the starting note, at least so they have a reference, and tell them this is do, and then do like a couple of them, like here. And the student would say, oh, that's fa. And here they would have to think, well, if this is da, da, they remember hearing do, da, so da, this must be me. Things like that. So, deduction, relative pitch, that's kind of what that's referring to there. Okay, and that's pretty much. Oh wait, I think I gotta finish reading. There's a little paragraph here that I have to finish. Okay, this assignment is perfect example of how people play by ear. Yeah, which is yep. Once a note is heard, a player must be able to reproduce it. Be sure to use syllables, numbers, and letters to identify notes that are played. So, that is the conclusion of lesson number 3. Or no, that's lesson number 2. Next, we'll start off with lesson number 3. So, I hope this is helping somebody. Comment, like, all that stuff. And next, we will be moving on to lesson 3.